Hello and welcome to another video. I'm Northern Soul Reaper and today we are taking a look at chapter 11 of Guardian of the Witch, entitled Valli. So let's get right into the review. Before we dive into the review, I've hit 100 subscribers on my channel. Thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed so far. It's absolutely amazing. If you aren't subscribed yet, if you like this kind of content, please consider doing so. It would really mean a lot. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram, the usernames for which will be on the screen soon, and I'll also leave links below in the description. If you want to give me a follow on there to find out what I'm reading or watching, or just to, as I always say, to get pictures of my cats, give those a follow. So, Guardian of the Witch, chapter 11. Before we dive into the review, as always, this is a spoiler-filled review, so this is your spoiler warning to go away, read it on the Shonen Jump app, and then come back and we can have a bit more of a spoiler-filled discussion of the chapter. So, Guardian of the Witch. The chapter begins with Drake saying farewell to Fafnir, Manafsa and Nada. They are leaving Drake's home after he's trained them up, and they're going to head for the next location on their journey. And as he's saying goodbye, he says to them that he doesn't think that they're going to be able to find a way to reverse this process to save all witches. But he does acknowledge, you know, being an inventor himself, he acknowledges that even inventors were probably told that things are impossible, but knowing this, they still forged ahead and they found a way to do things that people didn't think was possible. So he's saying he doesn't think they've got a lot of hope, but at the same time, you know, he's hopeful that they're going to be able to do something about it. I'm a little bit sad to be saying goodbye to Drake. I thought he was a great character. He really kind of livened up the series a little bit, but obviously, you know, unless he was going to join the party, you know, they have to say goodbye. They've got a journey to go. They're trying to get to the city-state of Noir, so they move on. And after some travelling, they arrive at the next city or town or whatever on the way to Noir. This is called Valli, and they have to, basically they say that they have to go through here if they want to avoid the evils on the way to Noir. The best way is to go through the towns as and when they get to them, because it gives them a bit of a safe haven. Also, they're going to have to find, you know, food and supplies, probably some new clothes as well, because they look like the fugitives. They want to be able to disguise themselves, I guess, going forward. So the plan is for Fafnir to use his blazing boots ability, which is he basically the same thing he kind of used last week, where he puts Manafsa's power into his feet and uses it to propel himself up. So the plan is to wait until the daylight hours when the walls are guarded but the towers aren't guarded as heavily. They distract the one guard that's there, use the blazing boots, and he carries them up the wall and over. And they end up in a poorer district of the city, and they manage to find some guardian attire. So they put on some guardian clothes, give themselves the bandage look again, and Fafnir and Nata both don a little fake mustache as well to kind of help themselves blend in a little bit more. So the trio, disguised in guardian jackets, start to explore this area of the town a little bit, and they discover that it's quite run down, quite poverty stricken, and it definitely looks like it's seen better days. A little girl runs up and asks for some food, so they give her an apple, and Manafsa kind of comments saying, you know, it would be lovely if magic, you know, was able to help with these kind of issues as well as just defeating evils. You know, magic is a very offensive ability. You know, it'd be nice if we could get rid of poverty. And at that moment, someone shouts, "There's Lady Witch," which immediately gets everyone on guard because they think they've been discovered. But what it actually is the Valli Witch is floating overhead with two large bags, and she lands. She is called Spicer Coulain. I think that's how it's pronounced. Spicer. I believe it's Spicer Coulain, so that's what we'll call her. She lands and she says to the people that I've brought you some food. This is enough to last you for quite a while, and everyone's really kind of happy about it. They're saying thank you so much, and she risked a lot coming here, and you know, she just wants to help. And this is kind of refreshing for Fafnir and Manafsa, because they've realised that, you know, they want to save all witches, and Fafnir says, look, we need to be able to do what we're doing so we can save her as well, you know, a good witch. And as the people are praising her, Spicer says, you know, keep your voices down, I don't want Claude to hear, I don't want Claude to find out again. And of course, whilst Fafnir and Manafsa are praising this witch, Manafsa is also thinking about food, because it's Manafsa and she's thinking about food, always. And at that moment, a man appears, grabs the bags, and he says, Spicer, what are you doing? It sounds like she's been found out by Claude, her guardian, so he's come to stop her. So Claude says that, you know, no one is to take food from the supplies stores. In other words, it is forbidden. We'll hear that quite a lot with Claude. In other words, it seems to be his little catchphrase, and it honestly grated on me a little bit by the end of the chapter. And Claude says, never mind that, it's forbidden for you to leave the tower on any other day other than your appointed day to leave to go into the city to explore. You also borrowed the key to your inhibitor collar without permission. In other words, you're impossible to manage. Now at this point, Manafsa seemed to voice what I was thinking when I was reading this. She's like, permission this, in other words that. I don't like this guy. And Fafnir's like, you don't really like many guys that you come across, do you? But honestly, at the minute, I'm kind of on Manafsa's side. It's just the way he's speaking is just quite annoying. It's one of those, like, you can just hear it in your head, like that condescending, in other words, like sarcastic. Yeah, just quite annoying. So Claude says that he is confiscating these supplies, and he tells Spicer to get back to Witch Tower. Spicer says, please Claude, these, you know, they need this food, the people are starving. And Claude says, no, the rules are the rules. They take precedence over everything. So cease your tantrum. You know, he tells her to stop. He says, you're old enough to know better. And Fafnir and Manafsa and Nata are watching this and saying, what a big fat jerk. And at that point, a young woman says, please, I just need enough food for my son. And she has a young boy with her. She said, please, just give me enough. And Claude looks, and there is a kind of a look of sympathy in his eyes. And he says, no, I can't give you this food. The rules are the rules. However, if you go east of Witch Tower, you will find my family home and stores. You can go there and ask for some food. I've given you permission. There is no one there who will stop you. You know, I'm giving you permission. It's not against the. In other words, it's not against the rules. So not so bad. Maybe it's just an annoying way of speaking, and that's, you know, an annoying mannerism. That's all. You know, he can't give them the food because he upholds the rules, and he kind of wants to stick to the rules, but he also saying there's nothing stopping me giving you my personal food. I can just give you some food. So he sends him off on his way, and that kind of warms the other characters to him a little bit. Unfortunately, as he's leaving, he says, oh, I noticed that some of you are also breaking the rules. You three. And he points, where else? At Fafnir, Manafsa and Nata. He says, you're wearing guardian clothes. Those are reserved for people who, you know, have trained hard and hold the rank of guardian. You obviously don't fit that qualification, so you have to take them off now. So Claude is basically saying to them, you know, I don't care. You know, you most likely stole them, but I will overlook it. Or would you rather that I cut you down? If you take them off, I'll just overlook it. It'll be like nothing happened, but you have to get rid of the clothes. So Fafnir, Manafsa and Nata are like, well, if we take them off, they're going to know who we are. They're going to know we're the fugitives. So they're in a bit of a bind here. This guy who sticks to the rules like they're ironclad versus, you know, their want to stay incognito, really. So they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So after a quick kind of a quick conflab, they kind of talk amongst themselves, and the guy's like, what are you waiting for? What are you just standing there for? Take off the clothes now. And Fafnir says, run. So they shed all of the gear, the guardian gear that was disguising them, and they take off running. Claude obviously realises that these are the three fugitives, and while they're running, Nata's like, very astutely, she's like, okay, we're running, now what? And Fafnir says, we'll find another route, I'll throw them off with a smoke screen. And just at that moment, floating overhead, Claude is there. And he says, 3 deserters spotted. In other words, I found some people who've broken the rules. And Fafnir realises that the reason why he caught up to them so quickly probably was because Spicer has the power of flight. and he realises that this is going to make running away really, really difficult if they can just fly after him. And Claude at this point says, "You fools, you broke the one rule that must never be broken. You forfeited all right to life. In other words, you deserve death for breaking this one rule." Yeah, so again, we're getting this impression that he values the establishment and the rules above all else. And Fafnir is kind of analysing, he says, if it's all flight-based, if we can kind of try and cancel the spell, we can maybe make him fall. I can counteract the flight with the blazing boots, but I didn't really want to be caught in a fight so soon. I wasn't looking to this, I wasn't really expecting this. And Spicer says, "Claude, do you think there's any way possibly that we could, capture them alive and take them in without killing them?" And Claude is like, "Absolutely not. They broke the rules and they have to receive punishment that is equal to those rules. The rules are absolute. They take precedence over everything, and it takes precedence even over a witch's life." So Claude might be attached to Spicer, but he seems to value the ironclad rules even over her life. Maybe he's just totally bought into this idea that the rectory and the state are selling him. So Claude flies into the air and immediately shoots towards Fafnir, and Fafnir manages to block the blade, but he's now got this pointed blade being blocked with Claude kind of vertically flying down at him. And what Fafnir quickly realises is this weight, it isn't a normal human's weight. And we find out through Claude that they control gravity itself. And in Claude's words, he says, "In other words, we control the rules by which all things must obey." And that's the end of the chapter. This one was quite an action-packed chapter. We got a lot of things. We got to see another city, Valli, which is on the way to Noir. It's the next stop for them. I liked that we didn't get caught up just wandering through the wilderness. Just defeating evils. Might have got a little bit stale. I like that the chapter kind of just skipped ahead, and we get to see the insides of another city. In all honesty, it's a little bit like, it just looked a bit like Bern. The city just had that kind of generic look about it, but the real highlight is Claude and Spicer. Specifically Spicer, I think her design is really cool. Claude got on my nerves a little bit just with the way he spoke. But it's one of those things, it's a shonen manga, everyone has like catchphrases and mannerisms, so that's fine. It's totally fine. It's just, I think when I was reading it, I got on Manafsa's side, and it was just like a little bit annoying that he kept saying this, and I could just see it grating on me after a while. But the Guardian Witch combo of gravity magic sounds really cool, and I'm really looking forward to next week's chapter, where we get to see the Flame Witch and her Guardian face off against the Gravity Witch and her Guardian. Another Guardian Witch fight, but this time Fafnir and Manafsa have been trained by Drake in order to work together, so it won't be as scrappy as when they fought Gen and Ruli, hopefully. They're still going to have to learn these attacks, because it's a totally new power to them. They've never experienced any kind of battle like this, where someone can manipulate gravity. There's so much possibility there. They could pick up, rocks, earth, things in the town. They can. Who knows how far this power goes? Also, it's worth pointing out, if we think back to the beginning of the chapter, Spicer also doesn't have her inhibitor collar on. Now, has she taken that off so that they can't stop her flying away? Or did she want some extra power to get over to the Pura district? Regardless of why it is, this is going to be a witch who deliberately and purposefully takes off her collar. So it could mean that she knows how to control her power a lot more than Manafsa does. Manafsa broke her collar and was totally overwhelmed by how much power she had. Spicer, on the other hand, seems to have, like I say, willingly taken the collar off. So it'll be interesting to see how the fight goes with a witch who is just still really finding the full extent of her power, versus one that maybe, is a little bit more acquainted with that awesome power that she has without the collar. So that's it for the review. I really enjoyed this chapter. I think it moved the story on, and I quite liked where the characters started, and I liked the flow of the chapter, and I liked where we ended up. We got to meet a new pair of characters, and there wasn't a lot of exposition in this one. We didn't get a lot of information. It was just pure the characters going through the town and encountering a new guardian and witch. It was quite straightforward really compared to some of the other chapters, but I think it really worked. After all the exposition heavy chapters we had with Drake, this was a nice kind of just straight back into beginning a new battle. So I'm really looking forward to what the next chapter brings. This series is still on my list of things to read, and I know that it isn't as popular with people as some of the other Shonen Jump manga at the minute. I can kind of see where they're coming from. I'm just enjoying this for what it is. It's a fun ride so far. It definitely didn't get off to the best start. I know I've said this a lot, but I think it's picked itself up, and I think in the next few chapters we might see a bit more of a focused manga going forward, and hopefully the story will, you know, pick up and maybe get some more people reading. For the most part, I'm still really enjoying this series. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this chapter, and more specifically, what you think of the series so far. I'd love to know your opinions. What did you think when it started off as opposed to where it is now? Do you think it's improved? Do you think it's just the same? I'd love to hear what you guys think. If you liked this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. As I said at the start, that is the best way to get the content as and when it comes out. I'm at 100 subscribers. I would love to push that number up to 150, maybe even 200 someday. Thank you so much for all the support so far. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Northern Soul Reaper, and until next time, goodbye.